How much money can I make as a personal trainer? In this video, I'm gonna break it down for you guys. I'm gonna give you some real numbers, and I'm also gonna tell you why it might be the wrong question altogether. Before we get into some of the hard numbers and break down the labor statistics, my name is Coach Joe Drake. In addition to starting the Axiom Fitness Academy, NASM's top licensed partner academy, I've also been training clients almost every day for the last 17 years. I've worked in just about every setting you can think of as a personal trainer, and I've also been inside of every single income bracket that we're gonna go through in this video. And this is from making $7.50 an hour training clients all the way up to making $4,000 a week for a consistent period of time. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you've probably already Googled this exact same question. And if you do, you're probably gonna find some numbers pretty similar to what I have here on the board, and I'm gonna break down for you. But unfortunately, it oftentimes leaves us with as many questions as we do answers, because it's like, how do you know how many hours a week this person was working? Was everyone full-time? Is it part-time income? We're gonna go through all of it. But let's just take a look at the hard numbers first. This is information that was taken from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in around 2021, so pretty similar to where we are right now, 2024 as I'm shooting this video. Median income for personal trainers, $40,700, just shy of around $41,000, which if you compare across all different career types, not that bad based on what you might be doing right now. 10%, bottom 10% of all coaches and trainers, instructors out there making $23,000 or less. Now we look at the top 10%, which is probably what you're looking for, right? That's why you're watching this video, is like, how much can I make? Top 10% of the industry making more than $76,000 a year. So the cool part about this is, it's like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity. The challenging piece is there's a lot of things to unpack inside these statistics. So in an effort to better understand some of those numbers, let's dive into what seems to be some of the major factors that dictates or might dictate where someone might fall in the income bracket, below 10%, median income, top 10%. So some things that seem to be pretty clear across different data sources and research are the impact of someone's certification. And this is kind of a double-edged sword here, meaning that in the research and survey data out there, they have found that those that tend to be on the higher levels, right, median income or above, tend to have, at a higher level, some of the more common NCAA accredited certifications. Ones like we teach, NASM, the NSCA, ACE, ACSM, ISSA. So the question really comes up is, does that certification mean you're gonna make more money? Or is it maybe more so that those who take things seriously when they're getting started are likely to stick with it and stay around longer in the industry? To me, that's probably the most likely, is if you're watching this video and you're not signed up for anything yet, number one thing you should do is make the right decision in the beginning. Right? Get enrolled with and certified by one of the more challenging accredited certifications. Although not every client's gonna go ask you what certification you have, it's probably an indication that you're taking this training thing seriously and you're gonna stick around. You're gonna figure out the hard challenges that are gonna come. I think that's the number one thing. I don't think there's anything magic about any one of these certifications that's gonna make you more money, but it's what you'll do if you go through those certifications. And if you're watching this video and you're investigating getting into the industry and you're not signed up for one of these certifications that I just mentioned, just know we are NASM's #1 licensed partner academy, and we run live interactive virtual courses. So if you're looking for help in getting started, don't hesitate to click the link below to get on a call with an advisor. Next up, some major factors that will absolutely impact how much money you make or where you might sit in that income ladder. The first one is going to be location in the country. There is no doubt that there are certain pockets of the world, of the country. For example, right now I'm in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. Hey, guess what? I'm in an area of the world where people have a high level of income. They have a very high level of interest, maybe because they're super close to the beach and it's always beach season here. But either way, personal trainers here in South Florida can make more money than maybe other areas in the country because of those things. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you're watching this video and you're in a rural area of the world or of the country and you're not in a major city and there's not a ton of gyms and there's not a lot of trainers around, well, that's going to impact how much you might be able to charge and how much you might make. And you can look at that two ways. Either you stay there and figure it out, or maybe if you want to make training your real life and your income, you might want to go somewhere in the country or in the world where there's big opportunity with training. That's what I did. That's what brought me here to South Florida. The next one, I mentioned before, the certifications, credentials, and I kind of have a question mark. To me, this really comes down to years of experience and the type of experience you have. So you'll find if you look at the statistics and you are really able to dive in deeper to those individuals who are at the top 10% of their income bracket, they probably not only have a legitimate certification, but they probably have spent years going into and learning in other courses. Not only have they been training a long period of time, but they've probably put a considerable amount of energy into their ongoing education and credentials. So I say that with the question mark because it's not like one credential. It's not like a college degree is automatically going to put you in an income bracket. That's not how our industry works. But the more that you do, probably the more likely you are to be committed to being a great trainer, which means you're probably going to be able to ask for more money along the way. So credentials definitely matter, but I think it's more about how you're going to apply those things and what it says about you as a trainer and a person. And the last one would be employment type. What type of setting you work in. There's no doubt that when you first get started in those first few years and you're working in a big box gym where you have a lot of opportunity to get in front of clients, your pay is probably going to be pretty low, right? The hourly wages for new trainers in those environments are lower. And that's going to be very different from someone who is primarily doing their 40 hours of training a week in a contract private studio. Like right now here, I'm in the Institute of Human Performance in South Florida, right? And there are a lot of contractors like myself who are able to set their own rates. Your income is going to be much higher. So don't take that as a false assumption though. Many people still need to start in that big box gym to get the experience and get the reps, but that's also gonna have a big impact on how much you make. This is all great information, but it still begs the question, what does it take? What does it take to get to the higher levels of these income brackets or to get to any of these different layers of income? And I think that's why asking the question, how much money can I make, might be the wrong question. Instead, what we want to start doing is looking at your income as a trainer as like levels of a ladder. And what is it going to take for me to get to this level? And then what is it going to take for me to get to this level? So in the rest of this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the most common income brackets for trainers and give you exactly what it looks like to be there and get there. The first step in the ladder, this first income bracket of around $20,000 to $30,000 a year, is probably one of the most pivotal times for a personal trainer, especially in their first 2 years. This is that point in time where you're really starting to gain real traction and probably gaining some confidence and like, oh man, this thing is working, there's potential here, but there's a lot of work going into it. So in order to get to this place, because again, it's not how much can I make, it's more what is it gonna take. What's it going to take for you guys to get to $20,000 to $30,000 a year? It's probably going to take you somewhere between 12 to 24 months. Anyone who's telling you anything less is probably selling you a lie, because the truth is, even as you start training clients, not all of them are going to work out, right? You're getting good at training, you're getting good at figuring out the right client fit, you're getting better at sales and marketing, all these things that are happening in your first couple of years. So because of that, it's going to take you a little bit to gain traction and to retain people. So without a doubt, most trainers, it's going to take around 12 to 24 months to get to this as a consistent. I'm not talking about hitting the monthly run rate once, but a consistent income where you know, hey, I'm going to be making somewhere around this throughout the year. This is probably going to take at least on the lower end, 20 hours a week of actual training sessions, not work. Because keep in mind, as you guys get busy training clients, there's going to be a lot of time that goes into your sessions, outside of your session, programming for clients, finding new clients, doing intro sessions, strategy sessions. So for me, I look at this 20 to 30 hours a week on the floor training clients to get to this number. And this is really found by looking at how much does the average gym pay? What's it gonna take to get to this income level? So pretty common here. And you're gonna be busy at 20 to 30 hours a week. Most times this is gonna be working in probably a larger club or a big box environment. And a lot of this also has to do with where we are. Somewhere probably in this first 12 to 24 months, you're just trying to get good at training. You're trying to get experience. And the best place for most people to do that is gonna be in these larger club environments where they have access to a ton of people, a ton of members that they're throwing at you and just giving you good reps. You might be thinking, Joe, like what if I'm gonna start in like a studio environment? Well, some of these numbers might be a little bit different. You might be able to make the same numbers with less time, but I find overall it's still gonna take you at least that amount of time because now you gotta get more people in front of you. And honestly, your number one goal at this stage is just building your book of clients. If you wanna get to the next income bracket that we're gonna go through and talk about, you've gotta become a great trainer. You gotta continue to get new clients and retain clients, so don't get distracted at this stage by other things. Building your online business, all these things that could come down the road. If you wanna make sure you move on to the next income bracket, you wanna focus on building your book. So if you're in the less than 10% of trainers who stick around longer than 12 to 24 months, you've got the opportunity to get to this next stage of income. I would identify this next kind of break breaking point or making point for trainers is getting to a place where you're gonna make more than $40,000 and maybe less than 50, somewhere in that range, $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Again, consistent monthly training income to get there. As you can see, it's gonna take most people a minimum of 3 to 5 years to get to this point because again, you're getting good at training, you're retaining clients, you're getting referrals, you're building your business. All these things just take time. And so most people aren't gonna get there in less than 3 years. But 3 to 5 years is a pretty good range, especially if you're working and hustling. And don't lie to yourself. If you're gonna get to this next stage, you're not gonna be working less. Previously, we were more like 20 to 30 hours a week of training. Now you're definitely gonna be more. Probably 25 to 35 hours a week on the floor with clients or more. Plus, if you want to stay here, right, you want to retain clients, you want to continually have a funnel of new people coming in, which you'll need at this stage, you're going to have to spend a little bit more time on structured planning than you probably did in the last stage, especially if you want to grow. Here, you still might be working in the club environment, right? There are plenty of gyms out there, Lifetime Fitness, Equinox, and many others, country clubs, where you can make this type of money working in the club system. But some of you might also at this stage, 3 to 5 years in, maybe you've gotten some other opportunities. You know, lots of private studios throughout the country and throughout the world, and you might have gotten recruited by one of these places by now. And so here you might either be starting to take a few clients on the side and building up your independent business, or maybe you've gone independent altogether. Either way, there's some flexibility here. Your number one goal at this stage, if you want to stay in this income bracket and you might want to grow to the next, is you're figuring out how to navigate growth. And what I mean by that is you're figuring out how to navigate how busy you are, right? You're probably now training 4, 5, 6, 7 sessions in a row some days and trying to figure out, how do I do this without getting burnt out? How do I still get my workouts in? How do I make sure I still have time for planning my programs and making sure I'm checking in with clients? All these things that when you get busy become a little bit more challenging. We have arrived to our third tier, our third income bracket. We are now at a place where we are approaching that top 10% income that we mentioned earlier on inside of this video, $60,000 to $80,000 a year. And I'm sure if you guys are watching this, you're like, man, that sounds great, Joe. I don't even know if it's possible. I love fitness. I love training clients. I would love to be able to make that kind of money and do what I enjoy. And I'm telling you guys, it's very possible. I know many, many coaches and trainers who do, but are you willing to do what it takes for long enough to get there? And the first piece is you're not gonna get there in less than 5 years. You gotta go in this long term and know that in order to get to this place where you are probably a top of market price trainer, right? You're probably at a place now where people are paying more to work with you than the average person. You've been doing it for a while, you've gotten pretty good. It's gonna take a while to get there. It's gonna take commitment to get there. So 5 to 8 years is a time frame that I have found. And I say that even personally for me as a trainer, I wasn't making that much money in less than 5 years because you're just figuring out so many things. But if you stick around long enough and you get good enough, very reasonable time frame. 30 to 40 hours a week or more, right? At this stage, you're probably working definitely more than you were in the previous stage. Some of that might be a little different. Maybe you have a similar client load, but you're charging a little bit more now. And if you want to stay here and you're in this growth-driven mindset, and I know you are because you're watching this video, you're also going to have a considerable amount of time outside your sessions, figuring out where you're going with things, how you're navigating client relationships. But no doubt you're going to have days where you're training 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions in a row if you want to get there, because you're still building your business at this point, even the 5 years in, right? Making sure that the reputation is there and you've got these long-term clients. Now, this might be done at the top tier. If you've been in an organization like an Equinox, a Lifetime, other major clubs around the country clubs even, and you've been around for 5 to 8 years and you've performed well, you can make this kind of money in the top tier clubs. And for some of you, that might be great. There's maybe opportunity for benefits. This might also be the time where it's actually finally feasible and reasonable for you to go out on your own and to be an independent trainer. Not only because at this stage, if you've been around for 5 to 8 years, you probably have a couple clients at least that you've been training for years now, and you've built the relationships and the rapport and the trust. And you're probably already kind of running your own business inside of whatever gym you're there, right? You have your own brand, your own reputation. So now's that opportunity. So this can be done inside a major club or on your own independently. But your goal at this stage, if you want to stay here and you want to go to the next, is driving growth. In the previous stage, we were figuring out how to navigate it. Like, how do I just not screw up? How do I make sure I don't miss client sessions and I'm keeping up with everything? Now you're at a place where you've got some of that polished. Probably The training piece of what you do has probably become pretty easy, right? Like you come in, you can train just about anybody, and now it's figuring out, okay, where am I going from here? And some places that you might need to grow in this phase or to get there are charging more for what you do. This is going to be a little bit easier if you're out independently on your own and you can start to set your own prices. But in order to get here, whether a club is charging for you or you are charging for yourself, you're probably going to have to be at the higher end of the market in your area in order to achieve these numbers. So that's probably going to mean a couple of price increases along the way to get to this point. And then now it might finally make sense for you to add some additional services. And I say now because early on as a trainer, it's easy to get distracted, but you just got to get good first. If you want to get here the fastest, get really good at one-on-one training. Don't get too distracted. And by the time you get here, now you already have an established client base that you can try some new things with. That might be nutrition coaching, where you can charge additional for your services. It might be small group training, where you can start to pair people together, right? You already have a good book of clients. Some of them might need to train at the same time. That's a great opportunity here. And same thing with online training. Maybe you are now physically too busy to take clients on, and now there's a good opportunity to add in an additional income stream. Often seen as the ideal target, getting to the point where you're making $100,000 a year or more in training income. And this is the point in time where, as a personal trainer, opportunities are probably starting to open up if you're at this stage or you get to this stage. But it's going to be reserved only for those who are willing to put in the work for long enough to get there. As you guys can see here, I very rarely have encountered any coaches or trainers who are getting to this point in less than 10 years. Obviously, there's outliers, but for most people, I definitely did not in my first 10 years. And the more coaches I speak with, this seems to be a pretty good breaking point to get to this $100,000 a year income bracket. And I put on here, how much time every week is it going to take you? Like, what does it look like for a six-figure trainer? Well, you're working a lot. You're not working less, right? You're probably still at this stage training at least 40 hours a week or more in person. But you might also now be to a place because of the previous phase where maybe you started to diversify a little bit of your income, right? Some of this income may be coming from things like online training. It may be coming from nutrition coaching. Or if you're like me, a good chunk of it might now be coming by being more efficient with what you're doing. So for me, for example, I really got to this place by starting to integrate in more small groups where I was able to train 2 or 3 people at a time and get more inside the time that I was training. You're going to find more of that here. But the interesting thing is now, maybe some of you guys who aspire to open a gym, right? Maybe you really want to not just run your own independent business, but you want to run your own business. There are coaches and trainers who try to do it before this phase, but I find far fewer succeed than those who get to this point where they've got the experience and they've got the business. Because the truth is if you're going to go open something, especially a physical location, you're already at a place where you've got 6 figures in income from the clients that you have. And it means that you've got a pretty established base. And you've also been proving that what you do works. And that's so important and necessary if you want to go on into these other entrepreneurial ventures and opportunities. But either way, you're definitely at this stage probably not working inside of a club. Maybe you would get there if you moved into like management, but even in those positions, you might not make this kind of money. Most trainers doing this have now broken off on their own, and they've probably been doing it for a number of years, at least 4 years or more to get to this place. They have figured out how to raise their prices. They've now figured out a little bit more on like how to run their business, how to bring in new clients, how to have a constant flow of potential leads, because nothing's consistent in training. People are going to come and go. So if you want to be at this stage, you have to have a lot of things working in your favor. And that being said, with all of that in mind, your goal at this stage is you got to be figuring out, how do I continue to accomplish more with the same amount of time? And that could be, like I mentioned, training multiple people amount of time, but it could also be just figuring out, how am I more efficient with my systems? Earlier on in our first 2 phases, 20 to 30 grand, even 40 to 50, you can probably get away with spending quite a bit of time on programming, right? You might still be spending a lot of time on each individual client program. You might not have real consistent training methods yet. And at that stage, you still might be able to work out a couple hours a day on your own. If you're going to get to this standpoint, you're not working out 2 or 3 hours a day, right? Your own fitness. You're getting in 45-minute workouts, right? You're prioritizing your business, probably even more so over your own training, and you're figuring out, how do I continue to get more efficient and build my systems? And truthfully, at this stage, most people are now also looking for mentorship and coaching at the next level if you aspire to get beyond this. Hopefully, this video has helped you rethink the common question, how much money can I make, or how much am I gonna make as a personal trainer? And think about, what is it gonna take to get to that level? Because I know plenty of trainers like myself and others who've made way more than $100,000 a year, and it just comes down to, are you willing to go the distance, spend the time, become great at what you do? And if you are, then you can use this video as a guide. Go back through and think about, where am I right now and where do I want to be as a personal trainer, and make sure you're putting in the energy and the time that it requires to get there. And after everything in this video, if you're wondering, Joe, I'm still not sure how I'm gonna get to that next income category, don't hesitate to click the link below in the description and jump on an advisor call. Myself or one of the team get on calls every single week with trainers just like you to help you figure out where you're going and how to get there.